Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar. Let's wait 2 more minutes so everyone can join. So we'll start at 11:02. All right, let's start. Welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar, the ROI of a CDP, how you can build a compelling business case. Now, before we start, some stuff that's good to know. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. We'll have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. The recording of this webinar will be automatically shared via email later today. And if you would like to receive the slides, you can get them on request. I'll leave my email address at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, let's start. What are we going to talk about today? And maybe let's start with who I am. My name is Glenn. I'm marketing director at IO. According to LinkedIn, I've been working at IO for over 10 years now. And in those past 10 years, I've been able to work on some very cool clients mentioned on the screen. And also these clients are looking at us for our CDP expertise. And that's, of course, the topic we'll be talking about today. Now, what we'll be discussing today, let's first look at some challenges that a lot of organizations, a lot of industries are experiencing. Then let's look how you could approach implementing a CDP, what the pillars for success are, and then let's dive in how to build your business case for actually implementing a CDP. At the end, we'll have some key takeaways, and as mentioned before, we'll have a Q&A section, so please leave any questions you have during presentation in the chat. But first, let's start with some key challenges. It's 2025. Customers are very demanding. Customer expectations are very high across all different industries. And I think we can all safely say that we as modern consumers expect the best of the best. We want to have endless choice. We want to have frictionless checkouts, and we want to have 24/7 service in whatever channel, either it's WhatsApp or chatbot or via call, when we buy or our client from some organization. And that also means that when there are some issues within that whole process, if we are feeling frustrated with how we are being serviced, we tend to be less loyal. And then, of course, people will move away, look at alternatives, and that's, of course, bad for our business. Another element we see is that for some years now, physical and digital interactions have merged, and users expect that seamless omni-channel experience. But what we also see is that many companies, many organizations are still struggling with actually delivering that omni-channel experience. Now, if we dig a bit deeper in the actual technology or marketing technology challenges that can be derived from these challenges mentioned earlier, it's often the case that companies have a tech stack, but it's not being used to their full capabilities. We often see that only 50% of all capabilities, either from CRM or digital advertising and so on, marketing automation is also a good example, only 50% is being actively used. A reason for that could be that the tech stack is pretty old. It's a legacy tech stack. It was maybe purchased 10 years ago, but of course, our world hasn't stood still, and it's not up to par anymore with the current expectations that customers are having. Another challenge we see is that there are often really good ideas and really good strategies being defined within organizations. Okay, we want to move towards a specific end goal, towards a specific objective, but they tend to forget that their current technology stack is just lacking key capabilities in order to get there. Another element to take into account is the actual maturity of the organization. So having a outdated or legacy tech stack is one element, but also making sure that the people or employees are able to work with those advanced tools is also a thing that we often see neglected. And if we have the ambition, for example, to work towards more personalization towards our end customers, of course, your team needs to be able to deliver those personalized experience together with your tool stack. Another element we see is it's very difficult to be consistent in your branding because we're moving in such a fast-moving agile environment. There's a lot of communication through different channels going towards your customers. Maintaining your brand consistency is difficult in this case. And what we often see is that a lot of companies are looking at customer data platforms, CDPs, to actually mitigate these challenges. They believe that by actually setting up a CDP, they will maintain the relevance and they will be able to effectively deliver content based on a technological solution. And in theory, that's true. A CDP can deliver or can mitigate these different challenges. However, in practice, we often see that companies fail to get the most out of their customer data platform because they're just not prepared on how to implement this, but also to sell it internally, why they should make a significant investment in a specific tool, such as a CDP. And that's why we're talking about this today. We want to learn you how to make sure that you can get the full potential from your customer data platform, but also in addition, how you can make a business case for every specific use case you try to solve within your customer data platform and report that to management. So let's dive right in. Maybe also good to start with what actually is a CDP. If you Google what is a CDP, you will see a lot of different explanations. The ones we chose for is having unified customer data. So it's actually an integrated database that is pulling data from different sources within your organization. Could be CRM, ERP, but also marketing channels, for example. One of the capabilities of a CDP is to use that unified data and use it to generate insights, enable you to segment your data into a specific audience, for example, and making sure that we can activate towards those audiences by, for example, setting up automated customer journeys, automatically pushing data towards specific activation tools such as an advertising channel. So these are the main capabilities or main elements that are comprised within a CDP. Now, of course, we often see that companies are convinced about the capabilities of CDP, but then they tend to forget how can we actually get the most value or the most potential out of our CDP. And what we often see is that we can split the whole process into three different elements. The first of which is technology. You need to have a solid technology setup. Your data foundation needs to be solid before you can actually start moving towards a customer data platform. This means, for example, having several integrations between different tools you already use internally, because we often see that if tools can't communicate with each other, then of course we can't get insights out of the data we are collecting. So that's a really important point. On the other hand, we often see that companies are thinking of a North Star ambition. They want to, for example, personalize all communication towards their end clients across all different channels. But they tend to forget we need a systematic approach. We need to have small use cases, maybe a pilot use case even, to start with and to build confidence within the CDP, not only by your marketing team, but also by your management team, who will actually need to give you a budget to work with this platform. And the goal should always be to work towards what we call zero-touch marketing, for making sure that we can automate as much interactions we have with our clients. So it could be setting up automatic workflows, but another case could also be, for example, generating specific content towards a specific person or a segment by using AI, for example. On the other hand, I've mentioned it briefly before, we see that a lot of effort is being invested in setting up the actual platform, the actual CDP, but that's the actual team that needs to work with the platform is lagging behind. They're not being trained accordingly. They need to make they need to work daily with this tool, and so of course they need to be adopted within the tool. And that's a thing we often see forgotten when setting up a customer data platform. Now, the thing you should remember from this to also start building your business case is the element in the middle, the data-driven use cases. We will be using those use cases to actually calculate what the potential ROI of our CDP will be, but that's something for later. Let's dig a bit deeper in the three different pillars for success, let's call them, on how to realize the fullest potential of your customer data platform. And let's start with technology. Looking back at the common capabilities of a CDP, for example, creating 360-degree profiles, unifying data across different platforms, making sure you can segment your audiences or set up campaigns across different channels, but also, for example, real-time customer experience, for example, personalizing or optimizing content when they're visiting one of your digital platforms. All those capabilities wouldn't exist without integrations. And that's often a very big part of a customer data platform implementation, is setting up the right integrations between several tools, setting up merge rules, making sure data is being cleaned, is being validated before we can actually start working with that data and start optimizing, for example, our campaign orchestration. And if we want to visualize it, a CDP is often seen as a activation layer built between everything that's living data-wise within your organization. For example, data coming from your CRM, maybe your data lake, any behavioral data or transaction history even. And then the bridge between all the communication channels you might have with your customers. Could be service channels, for example. Your call center will want to know if someone calls them, who that person is, what their history is with you as an organization, but also more customer channels or digital media channels. We need to make sure that we recognize people, we know who they are, what they're interested in, to offer them the best experience possible. And if we take a look at which vendors are out there, at this moment, over 100 vendors are claiming to be a CDP platform. And going back to the different capabilities several CDPs have, and what we often see is that many vendors have started with, for example, personalization, and then they started building additional capabilities within their platform and making it a more interesting solution for specific companies. I'm not going to tell you today which is the best CDP. There's no clear-cut answer to that. It all starts from the different use cases you have. Where are the gaps within your organization? Which goals do you try to achieve? And based on that, your vendor selection will be made. But if you want to start selecting a vendor, I think some important questions to ask are, what is your main purpose of your CDP? Is it mainly focused around data unification? Is it mainly focused around omni-channel campaign orchestration? Are you looking to personalize the customer experience? This is a question you need an answer to before selecting a potential vendor. Another element to consider is taking a look at your internal marketing organization. How complex and how mature is that marketing organization? Do you have really clear defined teams who are very mature? Then of course you can have a more complex tooling because they will know how to work with it. Otherwise, for some teams, the learning curve of a specific CDP might just be too steep, and you'll need to invest more in getting them on board and bridging that adoption gap. Another element to take into consideration is, what is our existing marketing technology stack? Which tools am I using? We often see in big enterprises, for example, they're sitting on a full Adobe suite. Then it might make sense for them to just buy the Adobe CDP solution on top of that. While we see other companies, most often more SME companies, that are looking for a best of breed solution, and then you need to have a plug and play solution, of course. And then having a look at how complex is our ecosystem we currently have, how well is it integrated, and which data volumes will we be talking about. And then maybe the most important question to ask, how important is security, governance, and compliance? For example, if you're working with really sensitive data, I'm thinking, for example, a hospital. Of course, that's really sensitive data. You don't want the data to be out there. There are specific CDPs who are focused on these really privacy compliant solutions and making sure that that you're just secure and that you're compliant with any GDPR ruling or any other ruling that is out there. Now we've talked about technology. Let's talk about how relevant we can make it towards our customers, or customer relevance. Important maybe here is that, why would you implement a customer data platform? Could be twofold, could be to maybe optimize internal processes and making sure that you can deliver certain elements more quickly towards your customers. But in the end, your end customers should be benefiting that you actually use a CDP, because you will know them better, you will understand them better, and you will be offering them better service, better offers, maybe even. So that's why we're talking about customer relevancy in this case. Now, how can we make sure that we are as relevant as possible towards our customers? That's by starting to identify the right use cases. Pretty straightforward steps. If you see them on screen, in practice, it's a big endeavor. The first step here is to gather all your business and technical requirements. What are we trying to achieve? That's more the technological side of things. On the other hand, making sure we have a maturity assessment on our own organization, could be on the people, but also on our current tech stack, on the current campaigns we're running, which tools are we using, and then combine those two elements to create a long list of potential use cases and some quick wins. How can we make sure that we can improve our current setup or our current marketing activation capabilities as relevant as possible, as quickly as possible, so that the end consumer will feel better serviced in the end. And for that, we have a pretty straightforward process to follow, and we actually use a framework for that called a use case factory. It consists of 3 different steps. The first step is to actually define a use case. What are we trying to achieve? For example, we want to personalize our email campaigns, to give a really simple example. But another example, more specifically in e-commerce, for example, could be, okay, we want to increase our average order value by putting more expensive products in our recommendation engine, to give an example. The next step, once you have defined these use cases, is actually implementing them one by one. So starting off with a pilot use case, and then validating, okay, do we get the actual desired outcome, or do we need to change some elements? And then you will basically repeat this cycle again, going back to defining another use case, implementing it, validating it, and then gradually building your own capabilities, but also increasing the customer relevancy. And this is just an example for one of our clients. We used the use case factory for. So we started out with identifying which potential use cases are interesting for us, and which use cases will work towards our general objective of this project. They will be prioritized, and that's also where your business case building comes into effect. Where do we think that we can get the most value out of on the shortest time frame possible? And then we'll start actually defining those use cases, giving some background on which thing do we try to optimize here, which KPIs will we monitor, and also who will be the actual owner of this use case within the organization. Once you have a prioritized list of defined use cases, it's time to get a bit more into detail. Which channels, for example, will be impacted if we try to roll out these use cases? Which type of content would we need? To which audience are we trying to aim this specific use case? Which data, which systems will we be needing? And are there any dependencies on other things we are doing currently in our marketing efforts that could potentially impact this use case? And then the next step is to actually implement the use case within the customer data platform. And you'll see that there are mainly 2 different types of use cases: technical and more business and marketing related use cases. And the final step is actually validating what was the effect of the use case. So looking at the KPIs we defined earlier, are we actually seeing an improvement on these specific KPIs, your key and secondary KPIs? And what can we learn from this? How can we maybe iterate this use case a bit more to gain greater value? And then again, once the use case has been validated, okay, this works, let's actually implement it. It gets put on the backlog, it gets implemented, and then we can start working on a new use case that we defined earlier. And then finally, people, often forgotten in this whole process. A CDP will give your marketing team a lot of additional weapons to become more confident about the data they're working with. They'll also be more collaborative. They will be able to work together more easily with, for example, IT, because all the data has been consolidated. No more asking IT, can I get a certain export, and then having to wait 3 weeks. It'll also enable them to be more responsible about the data that are using, because we're collecting in a privacy-friendly manner, but also they will be much more agile. They will be able to set up specific campaigns, for example, or reach a specific audience much more quickly, because they already have all the data, all the tools they need. And of course, for the more mature organizations, they will, of course, be able to use AI and machine learning to get insights more quicker, but also do some smarter analysis. But of course, your marketing team has a specific level of maturity right now, and it's really hard to force them to work with a really complicated tool if they're just not aware of how to work with it. So that's why we always suggest to start working with a specific pilot. A small subset of your team will start working on a pilot. In this example, we're talking about a marketing automation pilot, for example, and then making sure that once the pilot has been successful, gradually growing the capabilities, but also the scope of the use case. For example, expanding not only towards marketing automation, but towards all digital channels, and then working towards a situation where you can actually optimize your marketing orchestration by having your team, your really mature team, working with the tool. But of course, before we can start with all that, we need to take a look at, okay, how can I actually sell this kind of investment towards my management? How can I build a business case for this cool new tool of which I'm now convinced that we definitely should use? How can I express the value in a monetary way? And I've really tried to simplify it in this example, but if we want to calculate the ROI of our CDP organization, we need to look at two things. What will be the value to the organization, consisting of some additional value you might generate, but also maybe some money you've saved by cutting costs. So, for example, no more manual work that needs to be done by someone from your team. On the other hand, that needs to be offset by the total cost of ownership of this CDP investment. And a CDP investment consists of two parts. On one hand, you have the technology cost. CDPs are not free. They come with a license fee, so that's your technology cost. On the other hand, you have your operational cost, which is consistent of your actual implementation cost, but also the cost to run your CDP. Could be expressed in the amount of hours that someone from your team is working with the tool. And of course, you need to pay that person a salary, so you can calculate, okay, what is the actual operational cost of this tool. But then to build the business case, and this is where we'll be looking at the use cases that are generated through the use case factory framework. It's looking at, okay, what are we doing now? What is our baseline? How much value are we generating, and what's the actual cost to generate that value? If we look at our use case, it will be an hypothesis. What will we be expecting in change in value generated, and will we maybe save some money as well? And then expressing that into euros or dollars, what is the actual change in value generated and the change in cost? And by doing so, you can actually calculate the ROI of your investment. Now, I've brought two examples with me. First of which is an example of lead generation. We actually had a client who is using this framework, but unfortunately I can't mention any names. But just to give a really simple example of how we've calculated the potential ROI of a specific use case and then enable us to build the business case. It's looking at the existing situation. What's the baseline? We saw 50,000 monthly unique visitors on the website. We also saw a 1% visitor to lead conversion rate. And we knew through some calculations that the average value of a lead would be 200 euros. Now, in order to generate those leads and that amount of traffic to the website, they needed to spend 25,000 a month to get the traffic on their platforms. So, really simple calculation. We generate 500 leads a month. They are worth 100K, but it costs us 25K to achieve this result. Then we decided, okay, we believe that we can optimize this conversion rate because thanks to our CDP, we will be able to do our campaign orchestration a bit more efficient. We will be able to target more relevant audiences. In addition, because we are targeting more relevant audiences, we don't have that much waste on our advertising spend that we are using. So we make two small changes in the calculation. We thought we could improve the conversion rate by 20%, same for acquisition cost. So in this case, our generated value goes up by 20K a month, and we save 5K a month. Now, going back to the ROI calculation, we saw an additional 20% of additional value. Keep in mind, this is per month, and we saved 5K, so our additional value generated is 25K. But then, of course, we have some costs to offset this calculation. In their case, their license fee was around 6,000 a month for their CDP, and it was about 4,000 euros a month to actually run the whole program. So in this case, manpower cost. So here we have a positive ROI for this specific example. Same applies to, for example, e-commerce. In this case, we had a client who had a bit more monthly visitors, 150K. Their conversion rate was also a bit higher, about 2.5%. And their average order value was, just for the sake of this example, 100 euros. They also spent quite a bit more per month to generate this amount of visitors. So they spent around 60K. Now, again, same calculation. We are generating about 3,800 orders a month worth 375K. It cost us 60K. Now, what if we could optimize our product recommendation engine based on analysis we can do with our CDP on which items are often bought together and which items are the most margin efficient towards us as a company. So where can we actually make the most money out of? So our hypothesis would be that we can actually improve the average order value by 10% or 10 euros in this case. And then we could also, of course, generate additional value by just increasing that average order value by 10%. In this case, there was no change to cost. The acquisition cost was the same. We would only focus on making sure that that product recommendation engine would work more efficiently. And again, same calculation, net additional value 37.5K, and the technology cost was a bit more expensive than the previous example, than the lead gen example. It was about 13K a month. Now, keeping in mind, in this example, we're talking about monthly figures. Of course, when you're trying to make your business case, you will need longer time horizons. Not all use cases will be profitable after 1 month. So often there's a 3 to 6 month period required in order to generate the actual additional value, especially when you take into account that the actual setup of an implementation, this actual setup of a CDP can take quite some time. You're already investing quite a lot of money in the license, but also in the actual manpower hours for the actual implementation. So really important to expand your time horizon to at least 3 to 6 months. And of course, to use the use case factory to not only do this exercise for one specific use case, but already try to identify the most efficient value generators through that use case factory. So it's really important to take into account. We will do this exercise for more than one use case. Otherwise, your business case won't be solid enough. All right. Then to finalize, still got 2 more slides left. In essence, calculating the ROI of a business case can be fairly simply. Of course, take into account that we're making some assumptions here, but of course, that's always the case with a specific investment. We're making assumptions, but by using this framework together with the use case factory, you'll be able to assume what the potential revenue or additional revenue generated will be from your investment, but also take into account that in order to get the maximal return, you need to have a solid foundation based on technology, having a solid technology stack, knowing what you're working towards, to integrating different tools, making sure you're selecting the right use cases to grow together and to grow the business, but also growing your marketing team, making sure that they are maturing during this whole process of the actual implementation. All right, that's all for me. I already see some questions in the chat, so I'm just gonna answer them now. I see a lot of questions about a browser that needs to be changed. Someone is asking, do you see additional use cases or easier to build business cases with the come of agentic AI for the CDP? I definitely see that agentic AI will be quite significant in this case. Maybe not, it will generate some additional use cases, but I think the main benefit of agentic AI will be the automatization of specific processes. So I think your business case will be more solid if you could use agentic AI, because you can cut out the human, and the human cost, of course, money. So I do see that that's a game changer, but then again, agentic AI, it's not there yet. So I'm really curious about how that will play out once OpenAI or DeepSeek even will be on that level. Someone else is asking, my scroll is a bit messed up. While quick win CDP use cases are appealing, they may offer limited long-term value compared to more strategic initiatives. How can we effectively balance those priorities? Furthermore, how can we build a compelling case for long-term CDP investments, especially when business case projections involve estimations and management is often cost-focused? It's a good question. Within your whole implementation process, or the let's call it the CDP process, we use the use cases, which in your question would be the quick win use cases, to generate value as quickly as possible to offset the initial investment. Of course, when we're talking about a CDP investment, there always needs to be a higher goal, a higher objective that the organization is working towards. For example, I mentioned it a few times in the slides, an objective of an organization could be, we want to be able to work towards a zero-touch marketing model, meaning as little as manual operations needed to service or to communicate with our clients or potential clients. So that is, a balancing act you will need to make. And going back to the second part of the question, so how can we build a compelling case for long-term CDP investments? It is true that management is often cost-focused, but what we often see is that management is also often revenue or profit focused. So as long as you can prove that you are generating additional value towards your organization by setting up these different use cases, then you should be okay. But keeping in mind, there should be a long-term ambition or long-term objective in place. Then another question, we consider migrating out ERP system within the coming years. Some are advocating to wait until then to cleanse out our CMD and use a CDP tool to generate the golden record to keep out the trash. Is this the right way forward? Why not? I'm guessing you have some, let's call it dirty data. It still needs to be cleansed. So for me, it's a no-brainer that you already should start working on cleaning that data. But because even if you want to migrate towards a CDP or any other tool, you need to have clean data. Going back towards that technology pillar, there needs to be a solid data foundation. Dirty data is something we can't work with. So you can either decide on, okay, can we already start working on the cleansing of the data right now, or will we wait? But in the end, it will still need to happen. So either you make a choice, we start now, or we wait until there is a decision made, okay, which tool are we migrating to, and start cleansing the data now. But that's often the biggest pitfall of not only CDP projects, but marketing projects in general. If your data isn't correct, then you will start communicating the wrong way with our clients. One of our clients, it's a group of garages somewhere in Belgium. They had a really big issue with having clean data about the actual sale date of a specific car, of all the options on a car. For example, does the car have a contract with us for winter tires or not? And we are actually setting up the CDP right now. It's nearly finished, and still we're cleansing data because we don't want to communicate, or the client doesn't want to communicate towards their clients if we're not absolutely sure that we're talking about the right person with the right car or the right leasing contract. So not having clean data is an absolute no-go. Maybe going back to your mention of the golden record, it is true that your CDP often will contain the golden record, but then again, there can't be a golden record if the data you're using to feed it isn't clean. So I would start looking at that. And then I saw a final question: which CDP software do you recommend? I don't have, there's no real answer to that because I don't know your company. I don't know what type of challenges you are experiencing. Are you already on a Adobe suite, for example? Are you more of a best of breed setup? But then again, it all comes to the challenges. Which challenges do you try to tackle? And then you need to evaluate, okay, which CDP is suited best, because it's really dependent on the capabilities of the CDPs. To my experience, there is no one-size-fits-all solution regarding CDPs. You really need to do your homework and evaluate yourself together with maybe an implementation partner before you make that call. But I can't say right off the bat, this is your CDP vendor. If you're talking more about personalization, it would be another tool. If you're talking about unifying data, it's another tool. So really depends where your challenges are currently. All right, and I think I've answered all the questions. Thank you all for being here. As mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, a recording of this webinar will be sent automatically, I think today, I'm not sure. And if you would like to receive the slides, my email address is on screen. Please give me a shout, and then I'll be happy to share the actual PDF slides with you. So very thankful that you took the time to listen to me, and see you soon. Thanks. Bye.